Today is day 10, Wednesday, August 2022. We will have a conversation quite simple, quite clear. We will please ask you to take a look at the risk report 2022 trace august.blogspot.com. You will check there that is an independent effort by free will, by goodwill, and in good faith, always considering the security and the stability of our global system and our international security. We can observe that the discrete fail in one single area as a unique single event is something that for sure will not be very relevant. But if this goes in a systematic failure and unfortunately if they continue based on this kind of discrete event happening in many areas and with tolerance by silence, by obvious that this is the angle stone as the mobilization of something that threatened we all in the current time, and this must be reported, and the report in general is made by regular institutions, since those institutions has no commitment or no main purpose based on corruption, which points, since this event as the compromise assumed with the corruption, the entire continuity and purpose based on something that is a crime, and of course that this is a criminal organization, since this event can be 1988 for instance. And the interaction with this area, if the partnership or the peer doing this interaction do not report, it's a criminal association, going with hierarchical distribution of illicit functions and redistribution of illicit gains. It's an organized crime. If the interaction goes in a transcontinental level, it's named a transnational organized crime that will go on international system like finances, communication, and having the basis as preparation by the election, by the designation to occupy a chair. And all this under the silence will create the big stability that we are forced to live, and we will observe that the industrial project as a research will develop things and a theory. But this theory is a self-defense theory against the conjuncture that is ruled by criminal purpose, considering the silence as the angle stone to continue this. And the interaction at this or inside this space will be associated by blind eye association, changing the values of other areas as a chain based on something illegal. And if we can interrupt and segment this by the instrument available for financial control, that's not to transfer money, it's the budget, we can track the silence since the period when we had this commitment with the corruption and the blind eye association as the angle stone of things that threatened not only our property but our intellectual asset is the freedom of thought, the freedom of speech, all basic rights and guarantees under violation of the communication, and the institutional behavior and the state behavior goes by quality and values that those variables occupying these chairs carrying with. If it's a criminal state or a criminal integration of conjunctures based and explicit notice as an integrated failure. It's something that those variables carry with, and they won't dismiss themselves, and they will try to continue. And if you appear inside the security forum concerned with your security on 2028, you can request all information on seizure data, considering that if all crimes goes and have record, all crimes in Brazil, prepared in Brazil, or by this interaction that goes in Brazil, segmented on budget, has always the public department. In all crimes can be the murder of a deputy, the fraud inside an IT contract, or whatever. You always have the public departments on it. It means that it's the angle stone as organized crime and transnational organized crime in Brazil. And those institutions are the institutions inside the security forum. You have the organized crime and the transnational organized crime talking with you inside this security forum, obtain the information they need to supply the continuity of the crimes they do. You can arrest them all. It's your right and your duty, even as a partnership on it, USA. And we will put interest hurted and our creditors committee hurted in the same way. We will check on blog that we offered the cross-cut between micro-environment and macro-environment. In general, considering always the driver as behavior, which will be the driver alpha and beta, as conjuncture America, Brazil. The cross-cut will give me, let's suppose I will do the research as corporate area in a conjuncture America and conjuncture Brazil. The failure will be here as macro conjunctural failure, which can be, for instance, syndicates or global companies. And in the same way, if you do this cross-cut at the public area, it will be public contracts America, public contracts Brazil. The depuration will give signatures and interest or benefits on it, America and Brazil, and the cross-cut as crimes. In general, we will have always those crimes here, which is the corruption, white-collar crime, and economic crimes. Corruption, local with functional association and behavior and international interaction. White-collar crime in general by tax evasion, financial evasion, exploitation of prestige leading to nepotism that allows those chains based on corruption and silence as a blind eye to do the self-dealing, like obtain information from security forum or international law enforcement to keep your local scam that is associated with the international crime, and do insider trade and all based on nepotism that has sourced that corruption. And this, as illicit storage of money, will be inside the bank with, in general, money and resources diverted using a budget or an interface, which sometimes is the compensation or some argument that you have at the corrupted system of justice. The economic crimes can be espionage, violation, and sabotage. The blind eye and obstruction will be integrated to keep the continuity of both. The blind eye by silence, the obstruction to change the perception and data about facts and circumstances. The legitimacy to request a compensation is a right, especially if you had basic rights and guarantees violated with interest on it affected, like we are proving now at the security forum. It's the opposite thing when you set a situation, prepare the information, and use this to obtain an advantage against the Ford Motors using the syndicates, or the Google using the public departments, or having an IT contract. By silence and obstruction, change the data. We will check that this matrix as regression in general will go like this. The integration of two both give the matrix as control inside the security forum, with a sampling group as arena doing the regression by failure, until observe that there is just behavior by silence as or obstruction, and considering the limit as something that can be even as a global war or something like this, based on the interest in such so huge instability and uncomfortable situation, and prevent the legal consequence against you all involved in the pandemic crime. The risk behavior is always a variable named human resource. The human resource as variable during the variance of scams in general will be the stochastic process or the storage. As criminal intelligence obtain information from security forum, dripping and doing the insider trading, or having the criminal result as itself. The third accusation is about corruption, international, biohazard, weapon of mass destruction, and crimes against mankind, considering the consume with frauds that threaten we all, and by fake records we will have no idea about a thing, except if you do this kind of model as regression. We could observe the second accusation as corruption with functional association by department and institution that will carry and be explicit noticed by the behavior as the variables inside. In general, those variables do contracts, use the budget, and have bank accounts or simulation of operation to transfer money, doing the tax evasion and the financial evasion that put ourselves like this. It will modify the investment saving curve and of course the entire global economy. We will check our model here, quite simple, quite clear, that goes like this. Today we have a model for optimization, considering that my range as possibility can be the maximum and the minimum as something that I have as functionality. And if you have your records considering the quality between the higher level as something that has a huge accuracy, or the minimum as something that you kind of must do the inference and depurate, do exploratory analysis on something like this, of course that if those records goes inside specific institution by specific hands, and the area as conjuncture Brazil will carry a small circle inside as the local crime that has a projection until have the conjunctural crime. In all cases, the quality as minimum records criminal subsidiary to do the inference and to have the accuracy is something that you can have surely and trusted. And guess what? We have the crime on 313A of our criminal law, which is about the fake records that only goes by public department and always associated with crimes against the public finances and abuse of power by specific hands. Only those hands can do this. Legitimacy to act, in my opinion, you have none. So you must suffer the constriction and the review by other area inside the security forum, which is appear like you concerned with this object here as transnational organized crime by sampling knots inside your environment that threaten we all equally. Have a nice day.